Good Times is more than just a sitcom built on laughter. It is a reflection of an entire era where joy, hardship, and raw human emotion touch the hearts of millions of families. Behind the legendary characters and inspiring stories lie real-life tragedies few people knew about. Some beloved stars have passed away, leaving behind a legacy shaped by triumph, loss, and memories that will never fade. Join us as we explore. Winona Woods emerges as the image of an independent, sharp-witted, and highly proactive black woman, transforming the role of a neighbor into a form of chosen family. Born on August 5, 1945, the role was taken on when Jeanne Dubois was around 30 years old, and she brought vibrant energy to the character through her decisive voice, rapid-fire delivery, and an unyielding presence. Winona is both humorous and protective of her community, guided by clear-headed awareness and a practical sense of compassion. Jeanne Dubois passed away on February 18, 2020, of natural causes at the age of 74, leaving behind a powerful and memorable portrayal of a strong black woman in American television history. James Evans Sr. stands as the moral pillar of the Evans family, representing a working-class father who places black dignity above all material deprivation. Born on December 27, 1939, the role was undertaken when he was 35 years old, and John Amos brought a hardened demeanor, a weighty voice, and a strictness rooted in responsibility rather than authority. Without the need for lengthy speeches, his authority is built through action, consistency, and uncompromising self-respect. John Amos passed away on August 21, 2024, of natural causes at the age of 84, leaving behind a television father figure marked by dignity and lasting historical weight. Florida Evans appears as the quiet moral anchor of the family, where resilience and faith keep everyone standing amid poverty. Born on November 8, 1920, the role was taken on when she was in her early 50s, and Esther Roll brought a warm, resonant voice, a measured rhythm, and the steadfast gaze of a mother who places values above circumstances. Without imposing herself, her influence flows from consistency and uncompromising compassion. Esther Roll passed away on November 17, 1998, due to complications from diabetes, at the age of 78, leaving behind a television mother figure marked by dignity and deep spiritual weight. Nathan Bookman carries the image of an older working man whose everyday wisdom has been accumulated through years of making a living. Born on June 11, 1937, the role was taken on when he was around 37 years old, and Johnny Brown conveyed humor through a flexible voice, finely tuned comedic timing, and a keen, down-to-earth observation of life. Bookman does not preach, instead he lets experience speak for itself through remarks that seem playful on the surface. This simple, grounded wisdom becomes a warm point of support within the broader picture of the community. Johnny Brown passed away on March 16, 2022, of natural causes at the age of 84, leaving behind an enduring imprint of everyday wisdom on American television. Keith Anderson evokes the image of an aspiring young man carrying the hope of escaping poverty within an environment shaped by limitation and social pressure. Born on January 4, 1956, the role was taken on in his early 20s, and Ben Powers conveyed sincerity through trusting eyes, a humble demeanor, and a desire to rise through the path of education. Keith is not constructed as an idealized hero, but as a fragile yet meaningful possibility for the future. Ben Powers passed away on April 7, 2015, from liver cancer at the age of 64. Leaving behind a brief but deeply resonant image of hope in the memory of American television. Sweet Daddy Williams embodies the loneliness of old age within an impoverished urban setting, where laughter is used to mask isolation and the lack of familial connection. Born on July 12, 1917, the role was taken on when he was in his early 50s, and Teddy Wilson infused the character with a blend of charm and tragedy through a boisterous voice, rapid comedic pacing, and eyes that were at times strikingly vacant. His jokes emerge as a kind of survival reflex, making audiences laugh while also stirring a sense of quiet sadness. Teddy Wilson passed away on July 16, 1993, from heart failure at the age of 76, leaving behind an unforgettable portrait of bittersweet comedy in American television history. Carl Dixon carries the bearing of a black intellectual who places his faith in education as a path out of the cycle of poverty. Born on October 2, 1929, the role was taken on when he was in his 40s, and Moses Gunn brought a calm demeanor, a steady voice, and the seasoned gaze of a man who believes in the power of knowledge over direct confrontation. Dixon's presence opens a space for reflection, where reason and communal responsibility move in tandem. Moses Gunn passed away on December 16, 1993, from pancreatic cancer at the age of 64, leaving behind a lasting imprint through his intellectually grounded roles in American television. Weeping Wanda emerges as the image of an elderly woman trapped in urban loneliness, where tears become the familiar language of being forgotten. Born on July 23, 1909, the role was taken on when she was in her 60s, and Helen Martin delivered a performance that was both tragic and comic through a trembling voice, repetitive gestures, and a fragile emotional rhythm. Wonder is not purely a source of laughter. Sorrow is exposed within the laughter itself. Helen Martin passed away on December 25, 2000, of natural causes at the age of 91, leaving behind a distinctive portrayal of the loneliness of old age in American television history. Monty evokes memories of the impoverished childhood of an earlier generation, where deprivation became familiar at a very young age. Born on January 1, 1925, the role was taken on when he was around 49 years old, and Matthew's thymy beard brought with him a depth of lived experience, expressed through a subdued demeanor, a weathered gaze, and a slow, deliberate rhythm. Monty needs few words. His mere presence is enough to suggest the generational divide and the enduring cycle of poverty. Matthew Beard passed away on January 8, 1981. From pneumonia at the age of 56, leaving behind the quiet imprint of a distant television memory. Claude appears as a stark contrast to the surrounding, impoverished environment, where physical strength and an imposing build create a sense of displacement within a constrained way of life. Born on February 28, 1945, the role was taken on when he was 29 years old, and Bubba Smith brought the physique of a professional athlete, combined with a calm demeanor and an unexpected restraint in performance. Claude's presence raises questions about potential and the limits of opportunity. Bubba Smith passed away on August 3, 2011, by suicide at the age of 66, leaving behind a distinctive imprint of embodied strength in American television history. Henry Evans appears as a symbol of the extended family, where blood responsibility is placed above personal comfort. Born on March 15, 1915, Richard Ward took on the role when he was nearly 60 years old, bringing a composed presence, a deep voice, and the seasoned sensibility of a man who regards family duty as a vital foundation of life. Without the need for overt conflict, Henry's presence underscores intergenerational bonds within an impoverished urban community. Richard Ward passed away on July 1, 1979, at the age of 64, leaving behind a quiet yet meaningful imprint of familial responsibility in American television history. Hortense Dobbs appears as the face of the social welfare system, where personal kindness collides with a rigid bureaucratic apparatus. Born on August 14, 1923, the role was taken on when she was in her early 50s, and Alice Ghostley brought a deliberately awkward demeanor, a shrill voice, and a satirical, rhythmic delivery. The humor exposes the gap between policy and the lived reality of the poor. Alice Ghostley passed away on September 21, 2007, due to complications following a stroke at the age of 84, leaving behind a distinctive mark through comedic roles infused with social depth. Iber appears as the image of an immigrant who must negotiate daily with cultural differences and a sense of displacement within the urban American community. Born on July 21, 1934, the role was taken on when he was around 40 years old, and Johnny Sika brought a calm demeanor, a distinct rhythmic voice, and a gaze that always seemed to weigh each interaction carefully. Iber's presence evokes the quiet, persistent tensions between original identity and new life, subtle rather than loud, yet enduring. Johnny Sika passed away on September 14, 2006 from bladder cancer at the age of 72, leaving behind a lasting impression of the immigrant experience on American television. Uncle Wilbert carries the bearing of a displaced black man, where personal authority is inseparable from a life tragedy that has never been healed. Born on May 27, 1936, the role was taken on when he was around 40 years old, and Louis Gossett Jr. conveyed gravity through a resolute gaze, a deep voice, and a restrained intensity that felt quietly threatening. Without many words, his mere presence is enough to exert emotional pressure on the family space. Louis Gossett Jr. passed away on March 29, 2024, after a long illness at the age of 87, leaving behind an image of a black man who is both powerful and wounded in American television history. Mr. Pearson carries the bearing of the middle-class intellectual, creating a clear contrast with the precarious, working-class life of the Evans family. Born on July 10, 1945, the role was taken on when he was around 30 years old, and Ron Glass expressed composure through a refined voice, a poised demeanor, and reasoning grounded in rational thought. His presence opens up a class divide that is quiet yet unmistakable, raising questions about opportunity and privilege. Ron Glass passed away on November 25, 2016 from respiratory failure at the age of 71, leaving behind a lasting impression through his portrayals of intellectual figures on American television. Frank Mason carries the image of mature masculinity, where personal ethics are shaped by lived experience rather than cliched advice. Born on April 17, 1930, the role was taken on when he was in his 40s, and Adam Wade conveyed composure through a steady voice, a seasoned gaze, and a self-possessed demeanor. Frank does not impose moral standards. Instead, he gestures towards ways of being human amid the difficult choices of working life. His presence adds a note of mature depth to the world of good times. Adam Wade passed away on September 7, 2017, at the age of 87, leaving behind a lasting image of a dignified black man on American television. Thelma Evans presents the image of a young black woman standing at the intersection of beauty, social expectations, and the search for personal identity. Born on December 22, 1953, the role was taken on when she was 20 years old, and Bernadette Stanis brought natural grace, an intelligent gaze, and the genuine emotional depth of a young woman growing up in poverty without allowing her dreams to shrink. Thelma is both a visually captivating figure and a voice affirming self-worth beyond appearance. At the age of 72, Bernadette Stanis continues to be remembered as one of the most memorable young female figures on American television of the 1970s. J.G. Evans Jr. became the focal point of mainstream comedy, thanks to his explosive energy and the catchphrase culture that spread widely across American television in the 1970s. Born on June 25, 1947, the role was taken on at age 26, and Jimmy J.J. Walker fully exploited physical rhythm, a high-pitched voice, and exaggerated emotional expression to generate immediate laughter. This prominence was both iconic and controversial, as it at times overshadowed the series' broader social message. At the age of 78, J.J. Walker is still remembered as a face that helped define an era of American television comedy. Michael Evans embodies the image of youthful intellect closely tied to political awareness and a desire for social change emerging from within a poor working-class family. Born on May 30, 1961, the role was taken on at age 13, and Ralph Carter displayed a rare sharpness through a serious gaze, a decisive voice, and reasoning far beyond his years. Michael frequently raises questions about justice, power, and inequality, creating a clear counterbalance to the surrounding mainstream comedy. At the age of 64, Ralph Carter is recognized as a defining image of socially conscious, youthful intelligence in the history of American sitcoms. Penny Woods brings a painful slice of urban tragedy, where children become the silent victims of abuse and poverty. Born on May 16, 1966, the role was taken on when she was around 11 years old, and Janet Jackson conveyed raw emotion through fearful eyes, a hesitant voice, and a fragility rarely seen in sitcoms of the era. Penny does not exist to provoke momentary sympathy. Her presence forces audiences to confront the darker side of American urban life. At the age of 59, Janet Jackson is recognized as a multifaceted artist who, from an early age, engaged with socially challenging roles. Bertha emerges as the image of a working-class woman closely tied to the reality of poverty, where life is shaped by hard labor and daily endurance. Born on January 1, 1947, the role was taken on when she was in her late 20s, and Susan Batson brought an unvarnished authenticity through a deep voice, a seasoned gaze, and emotions free of embellishment. Bertha does not represent dramatic tragedy, but rather the quiet, familiar endurance of the urban working class. At the age of 78, Susan Batson is widely known as a highly influential acting coach in American film and television. Mrs. Baker appears as part of the urban community, where neighborly relationships form a quiet support network among working families. Born on November 6, 1915, the role was taken on when she was nearly 60 years old, and Bibi Drake brought a calm demeanor, a gentle voice, and the familiarity of someone who had lived long enough to understand the rhythm of the neighborhood. Without occupying the center of the narrative, Mrs. Baker's presence helps thicken the sense of community space. Bibi Drake passed away on March 27, 2010, at the age of 94, leaving behind the image of a kind-hearted neighbor in the memory of American television. Bertha emerges as the image of a working-class woman closely bound to the reality of poverty, where life is shaped by heavy labor and daily perseverance. Born on January 1, 1947, the role was taken on when she was in her late 20s, and Susan Batson brought a sense of authenticity through a deep voice, a seasoned gaze, and unembellished emotion. Bertha does not represent dramatic tragedy, but rather the quiet, familiar endurance of the urban working class. At the age of 78, Susan Batson is widely known as a highly influential acting coach in American film and television. Larry Walters evokes the image of a directionless young man caught between the desire to rise and the social reality that offers few paths forward. Born on April 11, 1949, the role was taken on at age 26, and Carl Franklin conveyed a sense of instability through hesitant glances, impulsive reactions, and a lack of clear direction. Larry is not a villain, but a product of an environment constrained by limited opportunity and guidance. His presence adds a realistic slice of urban youth experience to good times. At the age of 76, Carl Franklin is recognized for a sustained career, particularly as a director and filmmaker known for socially resonant work. Diana Buchanan carries the image of an educated black woman, representing the aspiration to move beyond the familiar limits of impoverished urban life. Born on January 16, 1950, the role was taken on when she was around 25 years old, and Debbie Allen expressed confidence through a sharp gaze, a proactive demeanor, and a clear intellectual energy. Diana is not merely a personal highlight, she also opens up an alternative path for younger generations, one grounded in education, ambition, and self-determination. Her presence creates a positive counterbalance to the surrounding atmosphere of stagnation. At the age of 75, Debbie Allen is recognized as a multifaceted artist with far-reaching influence across American theater, television, and arts education. Mr. Parker evokes the image of a working man trapped within a system that offers no real escape, where individual effort repeatedly collides with the invisible limits. Born on July 5, 1947, the role was taken on when he was in his late 20s, and Earl Billings brought a weary demeanor, an enduring gaze, and a dry voice shaped by familiarity with failure rather than hope. Parker is not melodramatic, but his silence speaks volumes about the cost of urban working poverty. At the age of 78, Earl Billings continues to be recognized for performances grounded in realism and closely tied to the social realities of America. Ellen appears as the image of a young woman standing before life-defining choices, where emotion, responsibility, and personal aspiration collide directly. Born on September 20, 1956, the role was taken on in her early 20s, and Debbie Morgan brought a sense of authenticity through hesitant glances, a gentle emotional rhythm, and a very human vulnerability. Ellen is not constructed for heightened drama, but to raise questions about the direction of youth in a context of limited opportunity. At the age of 69, Debbie Morgan is recognized as an enduring presence in American television, known for performances rich in emotion and humanity. Leon emerges as the image of a rebellious young man, responding impulsively to a social environment marked by a lack of direction and opportunity. Born on December 24, 1955, the role was taken on when he was in his early 20s, and Grandel Bush brought tense energy through a defiant gaze, hurried gestures, and an attitude ready for confrontation. Leon is not constructed as a villain, but as the result of accumulated frustration, where rebellion becomes a means of asserting one's existence. At the age of 70, Grandel Bush continues to be remembered as a familiar face on American television, often associated with edgy youth roles and social conflict. Head appears as the image of a familiar street friend, representing the social circles that urban youth find difficult to avoid in environments lacking direction. Born on October 15, 1957, the role was taken on when he was in his late teens, and T.K. Carter brought impulsive energy through lively eyes, quick reactions, and a half-playful, half-defiant attitude. Head does not serve as a guiding figure, but his presence reveals both the allure and the risks of street life for poor urban youth. At the age of 67, T.K. Carter is still remembered as a familiar face on American television, associated with youthful and edgy roles. Kim appears as a representative of the next generation, carrying the image of a black teenager entering urban life at a moment when social changes were beginning to surface more clearly. Born on May 12, 1969, the role was taken on when she was around 10 years old, and Kim Fields conveyed naturalness through innocent eyes, quick reactions, and emotions not yet shaped by the pressures of adulthood. Kim does not bear the weight of a major message, but her presence signals generational continuity within the Evans community. At the age of 56, Kim Fields is recognized as a successful example of growing from child television roles into sustained acting and media work. Good Times may have ended on screen, but its story lives on in the memories of generations. The people behind those unforgettable roles gave us more than laughter. They left us with emotion, lessons, and a legacy that can never be replaced. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. And if this story touched your heart, remember this: the true good times never fade away.